Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. We got the whole group together. We're taking a look at the 2023 NFL Draft sleepers. Some of these guys we do a lot of first-round mocks. We take a lot of looks at other people's mocks. We do our position rankings. Some of these guys we don't get to talk about a lot. So we're giving you guys some of our favorite prospects we've evaluated from the 2023 NFL Draft class, kind of our sleeper picks, our sleeper guys, our pet cats, if you will. Again, before we do get into it, I just want to say thank you to you guys. The support you guys have shown truly is incredible. And what's even more fun is the interaction in the comment section. Like, everyone's got a prospect that they like that not enough people are talking about. So let us know in the comment section who your sleepers are for the 2023 NFL Draft. We'll get back to you. We'll get the filming. We appreciate the support you guys are showing. Again, if you do enjoy the content, you like talking NFL Draft, consider subscribing to the channel. Boys, let's kick it off. We're doing defense only, and then later this week, we'll give you our offensive sleepers. Let's start off with the edge position, and I'm going Iko Leota from Auburn. This was a guy that he was not really in Dill. I remember when we were doing our summer previews for Auburn, and we were taking a look at guys like Derek Hall, guys like Kobe Wooden. Like, who is this number 55 who's just consistently getting pressure on the quarterback? This guy is a phenomenal pass rusher who I think can hold up in the run game. And if the team's looking for a pass rush specialist, Iko Leota is a guy you got to be taking a look at.
I don't get at all why this guy's not being talked about. I mean, when you watch him play, he looks as good as almost as good as any pass rush I've watched. Like, just in terms of consistently generating pressures, looking like he's got a lot of explosion, a lot of speed to power, those kind of big time pass rush traits you're looking for. He feels like he has it. Like, I don't get where people are not seeing his game, because he honestly, I thought he played way better than Derek Hall this year, at least. And he there's nothing wrong with the physical layout of him either. He's big, fast, strong. He's got what you want. I don't get where people are overlooking him.
And one of the things he might be getting overlooked is he only played 5 games in 2022. But again, going back to that 2021 film where he played all 13 games, he was phenomenal. He's good against the run, and an 18% pass rush win rate. He didn't necessarily play the volume that guys like Derek Hall played, but when he was out there, he was getting pressure on the quarterback at a consistent level. And that's what, if you're drafting an edge guy, especially in day 3, that's what you want. Yaya Diaby from Louisville, what do you see in his game that you like so much?
I think you got a guy in Yaya Diaby who's on the bigger side of defensive ends. He's probably over 270 pounds, or at least that's what he looked like to me playing. And a guy who, at that heavier weight, I feel like has enough flexibility and smoothness in his movement to be a good pass rusher, while also, probably where he really shined is hanging up in the run and banging with tackles and not getting moved around much. So I think he's going to be a guy who maybe doesn't have the top end pass rush ability, but I think he'll be a really good 3-down defensive end. Maybe kick him in and let him rush on the inside on passing downs, where I thought he looked pretty good. He does a good job getting his hands on guys.
Great length, 34-inch arms at the Senior Bowl. And he used them in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. You got a guy who's got, again, I don't know that he is the Will Anderson type pass rush ability, but a guy who I think can be really dynamic, play a bunch of places.
Yeah, solid. And then ROC, this is the epitome of a sleeper. I wanted to use him as my edge sleeper. Tell us a little bit about Dylan Horn here.
Dog. Yeah, with Dylan Horn, it's such a loaded edge class that ends need to figure out a way to kind of distinguish himself in some way. And with Dylan Horn, it's his effort and his strength. It pops off the screen. His effort 24/7 is insane. He's 6'4", 275. You do worry about the production up until this year. He had, I think it was a total of 7 sacks in 4 years throughout New Mexico and TCU. And he kind of exploded this year with 10.5 sacks and 15 tackles for loss. So I think he came on late, and then what helped him was obviously TCU's success this year. And I think he showed through on that defensive line.
Dylan Horton, I could talk a lot about Dylan Horton. The reason you're not seeing him as a top 150, top 200 prospect is probably because limited athletic skill set. He's not the most explosive dude. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest, but he's phenomenal. And the one thing you noted the most is the effort, the gas tank. Like, this dude plays so hard. A lot of those sacks that he had, and I'm not saying he's a bad pass rusher by any means. I think he registered 35 hurries in 2022. Like, it comes from just an endless motor. He's good in the run game, and he played that in that TCU scheme where it was like that 3-3-5, where he was lining up over tackles, not necessarily in a spot to be an elite pass rusher, but he still made it happen. It is so much to like about Dillon Horton.
I think that you can also kick him inside a 3-tech depending on the situation.
Yes.
Like, if you want to put him at edge for like first and second down and third down when you really want to get the pass rushers on the field, slide him inside a 3-tech and let him work against the guard/tackle. So I think he's got good position flex as well.
Yeah, and he's not like the biggest guy coming. I think he might measure at the Senior Bowl 265, but he plays hard and he's physical in the run game and he takes on blocks extremely well. He does everything right, and the film is good. And again, the only reason holding him back is he's not necessarily the flashy guy, but he's a very, very good football player. Moving on to the interior defensive line, I have a guy, Dante Stills from West Virginia, who, as a college football fan, and again, you guys who've been watching us for a long time know that's kind of where we specialize. This guy has dominated at the college football level for a very long time. Now, why you're not getting him talked about as a top 150, top 200 prospect is you don't really know what he's going to do at the next level, right? 284 pounds. He's a little undersized to play on the inside. He's a little too big to play on the outside, kind of that tweener kind of player. But Dante Stills is a guy who gets behind the line of scrimmage extremely well. He's an older prospect. He's a very good pass rusher. You look at the film against Pitt week 1 this year, absolute havoc. And he gets behind the line of scrimmage. He creates those negative plays, and he cleans it up for the linebackers. The one question mark is gets moved around a little bit. He wins with quickness off the ball. But if interior offensive linemen do get his hands on him, like, he could get moved around a little bit. But in terms of a third and long inside pass rusher, Dante Stills is a great bet. Dill, you've seen a little bit of Dante Stills, correct?
I mean, this is a guy who's just played really good at the college level, and maybe like a less, I don't know, a Kalijah Cansey type prospect who, again, like, if you just watch him play college football, you're like, man, that guy, he can play. There's something there. And then obviously the NFL draft is trying to project what he's going to be in the pros, but at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of times when you play college at a really high level, there's a good chance you're going to find something to do in the NFL. And I'm kind of with you. I don't, again, just the physical limitations probably will prevent him from being really good in the pros, like dominant. But a guy, you got to think he's going to be able to carve out some niche because of how good he's been in college against big time competition.
And if you're not sold on him, just turn on the Pitt film. Like, I remember watching him Thursday night, and this guy he was already on my radar. Immediately added him to like my 2023 board when he was just dominating. And that's a very solid offensive line that Pitt has, and he was just a wrecking ball. And again, a little undersized, but the quickness, the hand usage, it's all there. I think he can carve out a spot in the NFL.
And one thing he's gonna do is test guys like in terms of being able to beat guards on the edge. And there's really not that many D tackles who do that anymore. But he's one guy I think that can give guards, centers a hard time, right? Just beating them and again, being able to work around them and be flexible at a position where you don't see that much flexibility because you got a lot more bigger guys who win on power. But he's, again, there's a skill set that not many people have to be that smooth and that athletic at that size. And again, the size is a concern because he's not smooth like a premier edge guy, but obviously he doesn't have the power of the premier D tackles. But again, a guy you feel like is going to carve out some role in the league.
All right, your interior defense lineman, Jalen Radman from Oklahoma, a guy that I haven't gotten into the film yet, haven't watched a lot of college football. Solid prospect.
Jalen Radman to me feels like a guy who I don't think he's quite a tweener. I think he's a true D tackle, probably not a nose guard, but I think he can play the 3 or anywhere probably along the defensive line. But a guy who's got, I feel like, long arms, uses them well, and quick enough player off the ball where, again, not a guy who looks gigantic on tape and overly powerful, but uses what he's got and plays the game well. That, like, just a sound technique guy.
And then ROC's about to go off. Give us. This is a guy that in the group chat Colby Wooden has been referenced a lot. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I put him over ahead of Brian Brzee.
Wow,
I think
which is
week,
horrible, but continue.
I love it. I'm going to stick by it, and you will all be wrong because he's just like Chris Jones. 6'5", 285, redshirt junior, 11 and a half tackles for loss and 6 sacks this year. So I think he has the frame to put on a couple more pounds, which will help him in run support.
Agreed.
But I mean, he's got the arm length. He has pass rush like moves everywhere. I mean, you see him beating guards immediately. And if you can win quick in the interior, you're going to get drafted high. I thought he played with good power. I guess his pad height was a little high. He's 6'5". Of course, his leverage is going to be a little bit off. But, I mean, man, you'd see him flash when you're watching any other guy, whether it was a Liato or a Derek Hall. It doesn't matter. He's going to get there, and he's going to clean up the play. So I love him as a prospect.
And he's a guy that you look at him, and it's funny that you mentioned like room to put on some size. Like I saw him working out, I think it was at Exos, and he's like, I mean, not a lot of body fat on him, and like there is a lot of room for him to add some mass. But I agree, and again, Dill, I remember watching and going specifically to watch Derek Hall, and then a guy like Iko Leota or Colby Wooden are like, who is that number? Wearing 25, I believe, who's just an absolute wrecking ball on the inside. He's a guy that, and he also probably has some position versatility. Like I could see him playing on the outside if he had to, but he's a guy that it's rare to have interior defense linemen. That's kind of why I had Dante Stills up there as well. It's rare to see interior defense linemen win so well in the pass rush, and both those guys make that happen.
Yeah, and just a guy who I would say was pretty dominant in the SEC for the last 2 years. For him, I thought he played really good football this year, really good last year. So again, another guy who, is the position fit ideal, probably not, but I don't know. I think he's going to be really good. I think looking at these 3 D linemen we just listed, I think he is far and away the best. And I think he's going to see – I think he could work his way up into second round type player.
Yeah. All right.
One last thing, Jay, with this. So a lot of people talk about Derek Hall and like they give him the kind of excuse of, he's had 3 different defensive coordinators throughout his year. And I think with Colby Wooden, it's obviously the same thing. They play for the same team. Giving him some time to develop with the same coaching staff, especially an NFL one, and then getting him in the weight room just for one offseason is going to pay huge dividends for him.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what his body composition looks like when he gets to the combine and what he's playing at as a rookie in the NFL. Yeah. All right, this is a linebacker. I don't even think that you can be – and this is where you can be a big-time college football fan, a big-time NFL draft fan. You might not have heard of this guy. Isaiah Moore from NC State. This is another guy when you're trying to go watch a guy like Peyton Wilson or Drake Thomas. Isaiah Moore is he had the best linebacker film in 2020 when going in that COVID year. And then he struggled with injuries in 2021, finally kind of got healthy, I believe, in 2022. But he's a guy that I've loved for a very long time. And at that linebacker spot, I value so much just understanding the position, especially in the terms of like a lot of these guys haven't necessarily like Trenton Simpson, DeMarvion Overshown. They all have great traits. Are they great linebackers? No. Isaiah Moore is a great linebacker.
I agree. I think Isaiah Moore is awesome. And again, you kind of look at he hasn't really put the year together that he did in 2020, but even 2022, I mean, he was solid. Like at 80 tackles total, like a guy who's around the football. And again, you look at, for me, I think he was the best of those 3 and in a very good group who played really good defense for a couple of years at NC State. So I'm with you. I think I do really like Isaiah Moore. I think, again, I kind of like confuses me where he went. And again, I know the health was an issue in 21, but still, I feel like people just kind of forgot about him because those injuries.
And a hammer in the run game. I think PFF graded him as a 94.4 in the run game and then like 43.6 in the pay. Like he ain't covering many people, but I mean, he's a hammer in the run game. Dill, another guy that I really like, and again, if you're a college football fan, you probably heard of this guy, Jeremy Banks from Tennessee.
Yeah, and Jeremy Banks obviously had an off the field incident at Tennessee that I think didn't necessarily help his draft stock and perception for scouts in NFL teams. But I mean, it seems like there hasn't really been any issues since. He's been a consistent player on this Tennessee team, and when you watch him, he is a guy who flies around and makes plays. That's what kind of sticks out to me. And you go watch that Alabama game. I mean, getting on, making sacks, covering sideline to sideline, running through offensive guards. He's just a guy who I think does a fair amount. And again, he's probably a guy, if he puts his best foot on the field every game, you were talking about a first-round linebacker, especially in a weak class, because I think I'm looking at this class. I don't think there's any real hammers, but I think he has that athleticism. I think he's got no for the ball. I like what he does.
I like his game. I just lump him in with all the other like really good athletes who haven't necessarily played great football at the linebacker spot. I think he's got good athleticism, but I wouldn't put him in like the Trenton Simpson and DeMarvion Overshown type category. He's a project still because I don't think he has the elite athleticism, although I think it's good. But you're still waiting for him to kind of put it together on the field.
That's true. Like, you're right. I mean, he did have a zillion set tackles in 21, so he did have a good year there. He only had 53 this year. But again, I don't know. A guy you watch when he just flies around the field and makes plays. Like, he's different than I think some of these linebackers who, again, you look at them, haven't really put a year together where they have more than 60, 70 tackles. Like, I don't know. I think there's something different about Jeremy Banks. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be really good.
All right, ROC Ivan Pace Jr. from Cincinnati, hammer.
So he's a guy that's kind of catching on draft Twitter right now, which I'm very happy about. I'm super high on Ivan Pace. He's like 6 foot. He's listed at 6 foot, 230 pounds. I wouldn't be surprised if he's closer to 5'10". Yeah. So the height's going to be a real issue for him coming into the combine. But he was a Miami of Ohio transfer, went to Cincinnati to play with his brother, and he played his best ball against the best competition, which is something you love to see. So just reading off a couple stats, 136 tackles, 20 and a half tackles for loss, and 9 sacks. I mean, he plays with instincts. He's not going to beat you with power, but he beats you with his intelligence and then his hand usage when he's taking on blockers. So it's really exciting to watch him play. He's a good rusher off the edge and up the middle. Just smart player, instinctive. I think the only thing wrong with him right now is just his size. And if some team can just get over that, he'll be a day one starter in my mind.
And whenever I watch him, I think Nakobe Dean, like a little shorter, stockier guy, like Tasmanian Devil out there at the middle linebacker spot, flies around the football field. Definitely, you see the problem with taking on blocks at the size, and you mentioned that. But you're right. Like when you have the ability to diagnose plays as quickly as Ivan Pace Jr. does and fire on plays, like you can win with that elite quickness and the elite play recognition. And Ivan Pace Jr. has that. Another thing, and you mentioned it, the blitzing. He's one of the best blitzing linebackers in the country. Like he just has good feel at it, and it's weird because he's 6 foot. He's not like the longest guy. He doesn't have the tools necessarily to do it, but he's damn good at it. And he kind of sums up his
Ivan Pace a little bit is just when the ball's inside the tackles, I feel like you just don't see much from him. You're not making a ton of plays. Once he gets to string it out a little bit and start running around, that's where you see him shine. And again, that's kind of, you look at some of these linebackers, they struggle in that way, but he's certainly got that athleticism. He's just got to clean up I imagine it is harder when you're that short and picking through everything and seeing it when it's a little more congested. But that's where I found like the hole in his game. It's just when you're running inside the tackles, it felt like, to me at least, sometimes you just kind of got lost. Like you just wasn't making as many plays as you would necessarily want to see.
If people have questions, if you want to watch a good game of his, watch the Arkansas game, because Arkansas is notorious for having bigger offensive linemen and being able to run the ball, and he held up just fine. So if anyone watching wants to go check him out, go watch that game.
Arkansas game. All right, moving on to the cornerback spot. We'll try to speed it up for you guys at 19 minutes here. Julius Brents from Kansas State. Very good at the Senior Bowl, and there's just a couple things you like. He's a very smooth athlete, but then he's 6'3", and he was listed at like 6'4.5" at Kansas State. Like he ain't that tall, but he's got great length. He's got great. He's a very fluid athlete for how tall he is. The one thing I want to see, and it's kind of the question I have with some of these longer cornerbacks, like a Joey Porter Jr. or an Eli Ricks, is you want to see that long speed. You'll have that answered at the combine. But if he puts together like a sub 4.45, I'm not looking for blazing speed, but I'm looking for I'm not concerned that you're just going to get run right by. I really, really like Julius Brents as kind of a day 2 cornerback, end of day 2, maybe early day 3 from Kansas State.
Yeah, and just to flip over to my guy for this classes. I think Clark Phillips, I'm not sure he's like fairly a sleeper because obviously everybody kind of knows him, but I think he's criminally underrated in a sense because, in my opinion, as good of a just a pure cover guy as there is in this draft in terms of what he can do sticking with wideouts and shadowing them. I thought his battles with Jordan Addison at USC were incredible in what he was able to do. I think he did get beat one time because he slipped and then gave up a huge play, but otherwise I felt like he was pretty much on Addison and was able to stay with him. And that's one thing you didn't see with a lot of guys in college is their inability to stick with Addison, who's an incredible route runner, has really good quickness and separated. And that's what flashed for me. Like, man, we take note of this guy. I get that he's not that huge, long corner that some of these guys like Christian Gonzalez are, but when you just want a pure guy as a stick and man coverage on a wideout, I think he is as good as it gets in this class.
He's one of those guys that's like you just know is going to be good in the pros, but people are going to wait till the second round to grab him, and there'll be a steal automatically. So I love Clark Phillips as well.
More of a nickel guy though. Like I don't think he's playing boundary.
I don't like you're just big. I get it. You want these 6'3".
I do. Yeah, I love the length.
But if you can stick with guys, you don't need to be that tall. I mean, there's different ways to win in this game.
Him and Hodges Tomlinson from TCU, very similar prospects.
Tomlinson's even
smaller. Yeah, but like they're both undersized guys who they had great film. Like they were getting their hands on a lot of footballs, and you love Clark Phillips having 8 interceptions the last 2 years, 6 last year in 2022. ROC Deonte Banks stretching it with the term sleeper. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm definitely stretching the term. It's more of a Pat Cat kind of guy.
Yeah.
Maryland fan here as well, so it kind of helps that way. But I just watched him. I didn't see him until I saw him on Dane Brugler's, I think, big board recently. But, I mean, man, this guy can mirror receivers. He's patient. He's got deep speed. I think you worry about the ball production. He's only got 2 sacks or 2 interceptions in 4 years. But, I mean, he plays to the hands of the wide receivers. And I think that he's just like the ultimate outside corner. I think he could also move inside a play or guard the slot. He's my cornerback 3 right now. And I think that when the time comes during the NFL draft, you could see his name pop up top 15.
And I don't know if he's 6'2". Like that scene.
I don't think he's 6'2". I think he's 6 foot. I think he's 6 foot.
But he's very fluid. Like very, very fluid. And that's kind of why you almost don't think he's as tall. And I mean, he was a guy that a lot of Maryland fans liked and just never was able to stay healthy. I think he only played 2 games in 2020, 5 games in 2021, and then stayed healthy for Maryland in 2020 and was extremely good. I'm a big fan of him too. Getting to my last sleeper of the defensive side of the ball, Trey Dean III from Florida. This is another guy that popped out when I was doing my summer scouting for the Florida Gators. There's a lot to like about Trey Dean. I think the one thing that the question mark is, I think he sees his game a little bit slowly. And I think if that comes together, he's got all the athletic tools to be a very, very good safety. He comes up and hammers people in the run game. Very, very physical safety. I believe he's sitting at 6'3", 205 pounds. He's got great range. I assume he has long arms. Like he's going to measure extremely well. He breaks on the football extremely well. Again, the thing that you want to see a little bit more is just understand the game. Having the game come a little bit slower to you, because it does seem like he's late getting over and not necessarily filling the right gaps. But when he's in the right place at the right time, he has all the athletic traits to be a very good safety at the next level.
Yeah, no, I would echo that. I think like him and Torrance were both really good players. Florida. But probably with Dean, you get a little more dynamic ability in terms of like when you can stick him on a man, like a tight end and cover a guy. I think that's where he's shown to me that he again, when you're comparing those two, obviously it's natural they're on the same team. I just thought you could do a little more with Trey Dean and let him play like in a variety of positions, which seems like it's so important for safeties now.
Yeah, 381 snaps in the box, 108 in the slot, 269 lined up deep. Like he's done it all for Florida. I think he can do it all at the next level. And talk about like a position versatile guy, a guy that you can do a lot with on a defense. Like I think Trey Dean is that guy. Dill, Kayvon Merriweather, not a guy that I love, but let's hear it a little bit.
Well, yeah, because you're a Senior Bowl aficionado.
He's athletically limited.
Of course, like, and he's not a guy who's going to play man coverage. And again, definitely not a particularly versatile guy, but in terms of playing in a 2 deep safety system, I think this is a guy who is really smart, as sure tackler as probably exists in this safety group, and a guy who you just know isn't going to make a lot of mistakes in football. He played a long time at Iowa. He's just a great football player, and I get it. If you're just a Senior Bowl watcher, which you are, you maybe think this guy's like, oh, what? Well, he's not going to run a 4 flat and whatever. Like, you watch him play at Iowa, he's incredible. I wouldn't say incredible, but a guy who is going to play really good football in the pros. I know
You'll make a team for sure. ROC, Jartavius Martin from Illinois, sticking in the Big Ten West.
Yeah, I mean, he was just part of that incredible defensive back class for Illinois this year. We're talking about position. Yeah, it's so good. Position versatility is huge for him. I think he can play free safety, but also come down and guard the slot and man-to-man. So that's huge for him. He's a fluid athlete, quick hips. I think he's a day one starter on some team. Every team in the NFL needs a player like Jartavius Martin to cover ground, and he's kind of the perfect prospect for that. I think that his deep speed is okay. I don't think it's great. Starting off when he comes into the league, I'd rather have him at the safety position and work his way as kind of a corner if you need him.
Yeah.
But again, he's kind of hid behind the Witherspoons and the Sidney Browns. That Illinois defense is just absolutely amazing, and he was just a part of it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Jartavius Martin's another guy that I like. And again, the only question, I mentioned this in the mock draft that just went over from Ryan Wilson, like the question I have with some of these Illinois cats, especially in terms of coverage, is they just weren't going up against that good of offenses. And so Devin Witherspoon, Jartavius Martin, they looked really, really good, but they were also like the biggest challenge they had was Charlie Jones at Purdue. And so that's one thing that I wish we had a little bit more answers to. And that's not to say Devin Witherspoon is not a top 20 guy on that big board. He still is. He's very, very good in man coverage. Jartavius Martin, also a very good prospect. I just wish we got to see them play against a team like Ohio State. Guys that like had wide receivers that could really push these dudes, because you didn't really see that.
Right.
It was too easy for them all year.
It was. Like, the Big Ten West is a joke. Like, are you going to be afraid of Graham Mertz? What age? Iowa quarterback. No. Iowa quarterback. Why am I blanking on his name? He's horrible.
Riley Moss.
No, quarterback.
Quarterback. Oh, I said corner.
Still can't help me out. Unbelievable.
Anyways,
appreciate you guys checking us out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, let us know in the comment section what you guys think, what sleepers you guys have. We appreciate the support you guys have shown, and we'll talk to y'all later.